in the studio tonight, my friend Elinor Benjamin is wearing two hats because it's the last Thursday before TNL's Monday movie, and we always talk to her about that. But Elinor is also a storyteller, and she has been doing some things on the local level and also most recently on the national level as a storyteller. So we're going to talk to her tonight about some of the experiences she has had in doing that. Elinor, welcome to the inside of the studio.
Thank you, Wendy. It's not bad out today. We could've
Exactly. Once January comes, we're going to be talking about movies in the snow,
exactly.
Right? Well, before we get to storytelling, the Monday movie is happening this week.
Coming up, yes. This one is from Britain. It's called Dirty Pretty Things, and it stars, oh, this is a killer. I looked it up on the internet, but it's Chiwetel Ejiofor is his name. He's actually getting a very good reputation in Britain as a stage and screen actor. His parents were Nigerian refugees during the Biafra incident, and he was born in London and grew up there and started acting at an early age, and he's getting rave reviews. And so he is the star of Dirty Pretty Things, and it's a story about immigrants, illegal immigrants in London. And the co-star is Audrey Tautou, who everyone knows as the delightful and charming Amelie.
Oh, okay.
And she's playing an illegal Turkish immigrant, and he stumbles on a rather sinister operation, organ smuggling. So nice folks. We're dealing with nice folks here. And what do? Do you tell and reveal your status, or do you shut up and keep yourself safe?
Okay.
So that's the premise of this movie. It's been getting wonderful reviews, and apparently the acting is superb.
Excellent.
And
so that's
I'm
this
very
Monday.
Intrigued. That's this Monday night
at the
Majestic.
At
7 o'clock. Yes.
All right. Now, Elinor, tell me about yourself as a storyteller. I mean, you worked in the public library here for years and years and years and years.
22.
How did you end up becoming a storyteller?
Well, many years ago, I went to a library conference and saw a story. Actually, I saw two storytellers that year. One named Laura Sims, a wonderful storyteller from New York, and another one named Rita Cox. And when I saw them, I said, wow, I could learn to do this, and then we would have something to do in the library that didn't cost us any money, because I was already on a salary.
Right.
So that's when I took it up, and a whole new world opened up to me. I had so much fun with it. And I started going to an occasional workshop. And of course, we had Emile Benoit, our wonderful fiddler, storyteller, bon vivant, and a friend for many years.
Right.
And we even had him into the library to tell stories a few times. So he was definitely an influence.
Good for you.
And then it just became more and more interesting to me. It became so interesting to me, I left my job, my other job.
Wow.
And this is what I do now. I work
great.
with Learning Through the Arts with School District 3, and I'm having a good time.
Excellent. Now, earlier in November for the Book Week,
yes,
you participated in a national
I
event
did
in Montreal.
Indeed. And
Tell me
I have
about
been
that.
participating in this event for many years, but from the organizational side, because this started, it's a national event run by the Children's Book Center, which was, I think, at least the week was founded in 1976. When I first began working for the library, Canadian children's literature was just beginning to bud and blossom. And now, of course, it's in full bloom, and we're producing wonderful children's books. You know, now I've seen 25 years of them. And over those 22 years I worked at the library, I hosted a number of Canada's top-notch writers and children's book illustrators, dragged them through snowstorms into Cowhead, over to Woody Point, had a great time. And then 4 years ago they added storytellers to the roster.
So you said, this is it.
Well, I
Put
thought,
me in.
what harm? I applied, and I got accepted to go this year.
Excellent.
And I was sent to Quebec, and it was mostly an urban experience for me, taking taxis out to all the suburban libraries and suburban schools and a couple of inner city schools in Montreal, but also went on a bus trip down to a fairly small school in a town called Bedford near the Vermont border.
Right. And told your stories there.
All day.
Excellent.
200 kids in that school. Everyone came and heard stories.
Wonderful. Well, it is National Child's Day.
It is.
So we have to have you do a story.
All right.
Okay. Earlier today, we're going to cheat a little bit here. Earlier today, I did bring some kids in, knowing that Elinor was going to be here. So, Evan and Alex Wheeler, Nathan and Mila Burt, Laura Flynn, Anna Marshall, Emily Chason, and Brady Cook were all here to hear Elinor tell the story, The Three Billy Goats Gruff.
Once upon a time, there was a family of goats by the name of Gruff. And every day those goats would go up to the meadows to eat and make themselves fat. And as they went, they sang a little song. We eat all day and we eat all night, for we're three billy goats gruff. We finish all the grass in sight, but we never get enough. Well, one morning, the smallest billy goat gruff set off first. He had to cross the little stream that went over the brook where the troll lived. And as he came to the brook, his little hoofs went on the bridge. Trip-trap, trip-trap, trip-trap. And the big troll came out from under the bridge and he said, "Now I am going to eat you up. Please, oh please, don't eat me up. I'm too small for you. Wait for my big brother. He will taste much better too." "Oh, all right then," said the troll. "Be off with you." And the little billy goat gruff went trip-trap, trap, all the way across the bridge and up to the meadow to eat and make himself fat. Pretty soon, along came the medium billy goat gruff. And when he got to the bridge, his little hooves went trip-trap, 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 trip-trap. And right away, the troll jumped up from under the bridge and he said, "Now I am going to eat you up. Please, oh please, don't eat me up. I'm too small for you. Wait for my big brother who will taste much better too." And the troll said, "Oh, all right then, be off with you." And the middle-sized billy goat gruff went on across the bridge. Trip-trap, trip-trap, trip-trap. Soon after that, along came big billy goat gruff. And when big billy goat gruff got to the bridge, his hooves went trip-trap, 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 trip-trap. And the troll jumped up from under the bridge and said, "Now I am going to eat you up. Well, come along, I've got 2 spears. I'll poke your eyeballs out your ears. I've got besides 2 curling stones, and I'll smash you to bits, your body and bones." And the troll came after big billy goat gruff, and he lowered his horns and ran at the troll, and he threw him up in the air and knocked him off the bridge. He poked his eyeballs out both ears, and the troll fell down and broke all up his body and bones. And big billy goat gruff kept on going across the bridge. Trip-trap, trip-trap, trip-trap. He went all the way up to meet his brothers in the meadow. And they ate, and they ate, and they ate. And they got so fat they could hardly waddle home. They ate and they ate, and I expect that they're still eating. But if you go there, you can still hear them up in the meadows singing. We eat all day and we eat all night, for we're 3 billy goats gruff. We finish all the grass in sight, but we never get enough. Trip, trap, trip, trap, snip, snap, snout. That story's all told out.
What a great story, hey? And a great storyteller, and of course we had a great little audience there. Well, here once again.
Thank you very much. I'm always pleased to be here. And this year, I'm going to tell you a story that was brought to mind when the Canadian writer, that always happens to you, doesn't it? Anyway, a wonderful Canadian writer whose name is going to come to me in another moment, who wrote a fine book for children called The Sky is Falling. Kit Pearson is her name. She was here several years ago, and I talked to her about her book, The Sky is Falling, because in one of the chapters, the children who are evacuees from Britain, come to live in Canada during the war, are taken to hear a storyteller. And the storyteller tells them a story that comes from Russia. And I liked the particular story, and I liked the reasons Kit gave me for including it in the book. And she said she based the episode in the book on a true event in her own life where she went to the Toronto Children's Library and listened to the storyteller Alice Kane tell this story. And I picked the story today because it's a story that has a miracle in it. And that's why we're all here. The story, a Russian story, is called Alyanushka. Once there was a man and a woman, and they had 2 children. A girl named Alyanushka and a boy named Ivanushka. And it came about that the 2 parents of these children died and they were left orphans. And Alyanushka decided that she would take her brother Ivanushka and travel to a village some miles away to try to find work so that she could support herself and her brother. And the 2 of them set out on a long journey. They walked and walked and walked across a vast plain. It was a very hot, hot day. The sun was shining down, beating down upon them, and as they walked, they became thirsty. And Ivanushka said to his sister, Alyanushka, "Sister, please, I am so thirsty. When can we find something to drink?" And Alyanushka replied, "Soon, little brother, soon. Soon we will come to a well." But they walked and walked and walked, and they saw no well anywhere along the road they were walking. And finally they came to a footprint, the footprint of a horse that had been stamped into the clay. And there in that footprint some water had gathered from a rain. And Ivanushka looked at the water in the footprint, and he said, "Sister Alyanushka, please, may I drink some water from this footprint?" And Alyanushka, she leaned down and looked in the footprint at the water, and she thought she heard a voice coming up out of the footprint. And the voice said, "A fool you'll be if you drink from me. If you drink from me, a fool you will be." And Alyanushka said, "No, brother Ivanushka, don't drink from the water. You will be turned into a little horse if you drink from the water. Please wait. Surely we will come to a well soon." And they kept on walking and walking. And they walked a long, long way, and the sun was still beating down on them so cruelly. And by they came to a place in the clay where a cow had walked by and left a hoof print imprinted in the clay. And Ivanushka looked down in the hoof print and saw that water had collected. And he said, "Sister Alyanushka, please, may I not drink from this hoof print?" And Alyanushka leaned down and she listened above the footprint, and she thought she heard a voice say, "A calf you will be if you drink from me. If you drink from me, a calf you will be." She turned to her brother and said, "No, no, no, Ivanushka, you must not drink from this hoof print or you will be turned into a calf." And they kept on walking. They walked and they walked, and at last they came to a place where there was the footprint of a goat in the clay, and there too there was some water collected in it. And Ivanushka looked at the footprint, and he said, "Sister, please, please, may I not drink some water from this hoof print from the goat?" And Alyanushka leaned down and she listened, and she thought she heard something. She thought she heard a voice saying, "A kid you will be if you drink from me. If you drink from me, a kid you will be." She said, "No, no, no. No, Ivanushka, don't drink from the footprint or you will be turned into a small goat." And then she turned and began to walk. But Ivanushka was so thirsty, he leaned down. He drank the water from the hoof print. And instantly he was changed into a little white kid, and he ran away and around and around and around. Alyanushka turned and she called out, "Ivanushka, where are you? Ivanushka, I don't see you, where are you?" And just then, a little white kid came running up, and he ran in circles around her, and she knew what had happened, and she was brokenhearted. She had tried to look after her little brother, but she had failed. She sat down by the side of the road and began to weep and weep and weep. And just then along came a merchant, a kindly-looking man, well-dressed, with gentle eyes. He got off his horse and came over, and he said, "Young maiden, what is wrong? What ails you? Why do you cry?" And Alyanushka replied, "Oh, sir, I have to tell you what happened to my little brother." And she told him the whole story. And after that the man said to her, "Come back with me to my city. I will marry you, You will wear gold and silver and fine silken clothing, and I will look after your brother, even though he is a little kid. I will look after him for you." So away they went to the city where the merchant went, and Alyanushka married him, and they were very happy. They lived in a fine house, and they ate very well, and the little kid played, and the kind merchant, Alyanushka's husband, was good to him. And every day, Alyanushka and the little goat ate from the same plate. They drank from the same cup. And then one day, while the merchant was away, along came a wicked witch. She came to the door, and in that way only witches have, she made herself look to be an agreeable companion. She said to Alyanushka, "What a hot day we are having today, madam. Why don't you come with me for a swim in the river?" And Alyanushka did not know it was a witch. She went with the woman to the river, and no sooner had they taken a few strokes swimming in the river than that wicked witch took a great stone, fastened it on a chain, put it around Alyanushka's neck, and Alyanushka sank to the bottom of the river and was drowned. And the witch took Alyanushka's clothes, and by that special magic witches have, she made herself look exactly like Alyanushka. And nobody knew the difference. Nobody knew except the little kid, Ivanushka. The witch went back home, and even Alyanushka's husband did not recognize that it was not his own dear wife. Time passed, and the little kid spent all day down beside the river, walking back and forth and back and forth. And he sang out, "Alyanushka, Alyanushka, swim out, swim out, swim out to me." And Alyanushka stayed at the bottom of the river, and he heard nothing from her at all. Time passed, and the witch had noticed that the little goat was going down to the river every day, and she realized the little goat knew what was happening. She also knew the little goat had the power of speech. So she went to Alyanushka's husband and she said, "I am tired of having this little goat around all the time. I want you to take him and kill him." And the merchant was very surprised because he thought that Alyanushka had loved the little goat. He was her brother. And she kept begging him and pestering him day after day. And finally, he agreed. He said, "All right, you may kill him. I will not have anything to do with it." And the witch smiled in glee, and she went off, and she had a great big fire built, and a pot of water put on to boil, and had knives taken out to sharpen. And Ivanushka realized they were going to kill him. He rushed off to the merchant, and he spoke in a human voice, "Oh, please, sir, they are going to kill me. May I not go down to the river one last time and drink water from the river?" And the merchant said, "All right, you can do that." So Ivanushka rushed down to the riverbank, and he sang out to his sister in the water, "Alyanushka, Alyanushka, swim out, swim out, swim out to me. Fires are burning, pots are boiling, knives are grinding, and I am going to die." And from the bottom of the river came the voice of Alyanushka singing, "Ivanushka, little brother, sing out, sing out, sing out to me. A heavy stone lies round my neck, silken webs entangle my legs, heavy sand lies on my chest." And the goat rushed back and forth up the riverbank. And the servants saw this, and they were very surprised, and they rushed back to the house and told the merchant what had happened. And the merchant went down with all the servants down to the river where the little goat was running back and forth. And they saw something in the river. And the merchant said, "Please, go find me a net, and we will pull out of the river whatever this is." And when they pulled the net up, there was Alyanushka, drowned, but still looking as beautiful and dressed as beautifully as she had ever been. They set her on the side of the riverbank and washed the mud away from her face. And they dressed her in fine, bright clothes. And then, by some miracle, she began to breathe again. She sat up again. She was whole. She was well. And they went back to their house, and they lived so well. But as for the wicked witch, well, I won't tell you what they did to her. I'm sure that you can come up with your own idea of what should have happened to her. The story of Ivanushka and Alyanushka from Russia. Thank you.
Elinor Benjamin, who's been a good friend of ours for many, many years, and I'm delighted to have her back again this year. So sit back, get your coffee. You are in for a treat, and please welcome our good friend, Elinor Benjamin.
How many more?
Hello, and welcome to the Children's Wish Foundation. Wishes. No one knows better the power and magic of a wish than the people who organize the Children's Wish Foundation. And no one knows that the making of a wish is a very important task. You can't be too careful when you make a wish. And if you've ever listened to a fairy tale or a folk tale, I'm sure that you know that making a wish can also be a little dangerous. Remember King Midas, the legend of King Midas from the days of the Greeks? Poor King Midas, he was greedy. He loved his gold. He loved his gold so much that he wished that anything he touched would turn to gold. Well, you know what happened to King Midas, don't you? Everything he touched did turn to gold, including his food, his drink, and his daughter, whom he loved more than anything in the world. But fortunately for King Midas, there was an escape clause, and he got out of his terrible wish. Some wishes are even scarier than King Midas's. If you've ever read the story by Edgar Allan Poe called The Monkey's Paw, you know that you can never predict how a wish will turn out. And you'd better be very, very careful what you wish for, because you just might get your wish. And if you haven't read that story, I won't spoil it by telling you any more about it, but it's one of the great creepy stories of all time. And then there's the danger of making a very foolish wish. Consider the story from the Grimm's brothers of the 3 wishes. Remember that poor woodcutter who was out cutting down a tree one day? And it turned out he happened upon a tree that a fairy lived in, and she asked him to stop cutting down the tree and she would grant him his 3 wishes. Well, he ran home in delight to tell his mother, his wife. And when she heard, she was so excited she couldn't even cook the supper. And the poor woodcutter got so hungry, he said, "Oh, I wish I had a sausage on my plate right here," and his wish was granted. And his wife was so angry, she flew into a rage and wished the sausage was on his nose. There was nothing to be done. The sausage wouldn't come off, and the poor couple had to waste their last wish wishing that sausage away. But we're not here to talk about foolish wishes or dangerous wishes today. I'm going to tell you a story about a good wish, a happy wish. This story comes from the Irish storyteller Liz Weir, and I heard her tell this story in Toronto at the Harbourfront Storytelling Festival. And it concerns a poor farmer from the county of Mayo. He was a good man, but he was so poor he lived with his 2 parents and his wife, and they had many sorrows in their life. His mother had lost her sight and was completely blind, and he and his wife had been married a long time and still had no children. Life was very hard for them where they lived. They managed to eke out a meager living from their farm, but then one year, the potato crop failed. The blight came, and starvation came knocking at the door. The poor man had reached the end of his rope. He knew his family was going to starve if he didn't do something soon. So he decided upon the most rash course of action. The land they lived on was near the Earls, and the Earl was the hardest of all lords. Anyone who went hunting on the Earl's land, which was filled with game, would surely end up hanged by the neck. But that poor farmer was so desperate. He got up the next morning, took the only weapon he had, which was a hatchet. He took it with him on to the Lord's land and began to look all day for something to kill, to eat. He'd spent most of the day in the woods when he found himself in a small thicket, and there he saw and cornered a beautiful white deer. The deer was right at the edge of the thick part of the forest, and she couldn't escape. The farmer walked toward her with the hatchet. He raised it to bring down the fatal blow on her head, when she turned and looked at him with her big eyes and said, "Wait, wait. If you kill me, young man, you will surely be hanged by the neck, and that won't do your family any good. If you spare my life, you will see what will happen. I will grant you a wish." Well, the farmer was shocked. First of all, there was a talking deer talking about wishes. What kind of foolishness was that? And yet there was something about that white deer that made him believe her. Then she spoke to him again. "Yes, you go home now and think about the wish you would like to make. And come back here tomorrow. And if you decide to change your mind, I'll still be here and you can kill me then and take me home to your family." The young man went off. He went home and thought about what to do with one wish. Well, I'm sure you know the quandary he was in. One wish. How do you decide what to ask for if you've been given only one wish? He decided he would talk to his father, whom he respected and loved. He went and talked to his father, and his father said, "Well, son, the right thing to wish for in this case is obvious. You should wish for a pile of gold. We will live well the rest of our lives." The young man thought about that for a while. But he also loved his mother and his wife, and he thought he should talk to them too. So he found his mother and told her what his father had said. "But son," said his mother, "don't wish for gold. What good is gold? To an old woman like me, the most precious thing in the world is eyesight. Wish for my eyesight to be restored. That is much more precious than gold." Well, the young man loved and respected his mother too. He went away to think about it for a while and to talk to his wife. As soon as he told her about the wish, she said, "Husband, there is no choice what you should wish for. You and I have wished for a child for 5 years. A child would be more precious than gold. Please, husband, wish that we may have a child." The young man went away and thought. What a bad night he had. He tossed and turned. How could he keep the 3 people he loved the most happy? And at last morning came. He went off to the forest that was owned by the Lord. He came to the spot where the white deer was still right there waiting for him. She said, "You're back. Do you have a wish that you want to make?" "Yes," said the young man. "What is your wish, young man?" "I wish," he said, "that my mother could see my wife rocking our child in a cradle made of gold." "Your wish shall be granted," said the deer. The young man went home, and within a year, his wish came true. And the family lived very well the rest of their days. And I'd like to send that story out to a special young lady named Laura Hillier, who says to her mother that she's enjoyed the stories I've told her when I've gone into her school. So Laura, I hope you're listening today, and I hope that you liked that story. Thank you.
I'm sure Laura loved that story. Laura loves good stories, so no one tells them like Elinor. Good friend of the Children's Wish Foundation. Thank you so much. Elinor Benjamin, storyteller extraordinaire and a very good friend. 632-9474 is our number, 1-877.